Okay, so let's close our eyes and do a little chant. Namami Dhanvantarim Nadidevam Surasurairvandita Padapadmam Loke Jararugbhayamrutyunasham Dhataramisham Vividhaushadhinam ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्मा तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. All right. Welcome everybody to our monthly webinar series. Today's topic, thank you, Mamta, for suggesting the topic, how to take care of elderly. When we get to, if you have attended my previous sessions, you know the different stages of life. And I'm going to quickly get to the stages of life. Who here does not know the terminology of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha? I'm sure all of you do. If you do not, please let me know. But Kapha is the stage that we all start with. Anything that we start with building, right? Anything, you start a business, you go to school, you start with building blocks. That is Kapha. That's what's happening with us in childhood. Our tissues are growing, our organs are growing. All of us are in that growing stage. Then comes the sustenance stage. In that sustenance stage, we have to sustain whatever growth happened. And the same thing with the business as well, that when there is a growth when the growth is happening, you also have to make sure that sustenance is happening. And that sustenance is happening during our teenage years. And that is the pitta stage where the heat, the transformation is happening. Because when you eat food in your childhood, your growth is happening, organs are growing, and all of that. Later on, at one point, the growth is hampered. You don't grow in size. Maybe you'll grow, extra pounds here and there, but height remains the same. And you almost look the same, even though you eat that much amount of food. It feels like the food that you eat still it goes away into thin air. So what's happening here? There's a transformation happening. Every day cells are dying and new cells are being formed. So the relativity, the amount of cells that are depleting are equivalent almost to the amount of cells that are being regenerated, right? During the middle stage of our lives, 20, 30s, that's what happened. Now, in 40s, 50s, and later on, especially in 60s and 70s, what happens is the decline of the cells, cell death is much more than the regeneration of cells. When that is happening, you notice that the amount of hair that you've had in the past reduces. You notice that the plumpiness that you have in your skin reduces, wrinkles start, and graying starts. And you notice that there is not enough strength that is present in your joints, in your muscles. The amount of time that you used to walk in the past is not the same now. This is what we see with our elderly, either our parents or relatives. We see that with them. Then we see a lot of neurological conditions, Parkinsonism, Alzheimer's. You are not able to retain anything that I'm talking to you. You're able to understand what I'm talking. You're able to retain it. But retention reduces when you get into that elderly stage. So that stage is called the Vata stage. For those of you that remember, if you have attended my previous classes, you know that Vata dosha is primarily a air and space element. When there is a lot of air and space element, Kapha was building. It was more of water and earth element, where that's why there's substance that is present and there is a lot of growth that was happening. And Pitta more of a hot element, heat, fire. But Vata is more of a depletion that is happening. When this depletion happens, the juices that were going all over our body, the mucosal lining that is covering all over our body, the bone marrow that is able to, make it is going to create that space in our bones, fill the space in our bones, the cartilage that is able to keep both the bones together. So all of these special juices, all of these perfect juices are going to start declining because air element is going to blow it and the dryness happens. And that happens is when creaking of the joints and all of this happens. Memory loss happens. You will not be able to stay strong. You will not, the senility, the weakness, all of this happens, right? So when this happens and when we are seeing our parents, we feel helpless. We're like, what can we do? We cannot be waiting for all the, when it gets diagnosed, because by the time it is diagnosed, then it would be delayed already. We would have lost the opportunity. I always call it as formation of yogurt, right? When the milk, you set some culture in it, and this culture has to somehow make this milk into yogurt. Once the yogurt is made from the milk, you cannot reverse it back to milk. That's exactly what happens when a disease is manifested. Even before the disease was manifested, there was a lot of phenomenon that was happening, a lot of signs that were given to us. And if we ignore all of those signs, that's when we end up here, right? That's when we see all of these conditions. Any questions on this so far? I just wanted to give you that phenomenon first. And once you understand what is happening physiologically, why the changes are happening, then I would like to explain what is it that you need to do to take care of the situation. Okay, so it seems.
I have one question,
Yes, sure.
and I don't know where I read it or how I got the information, but I just wanted to find out when you talked about growth and then the next phase and so on.
Mm-hmm.
I heard somewhere like around between 30 and 40 is where the cell growth pretty much stops. And after 40, it's pretty much maintaining it or sustenance mode. After that, I mean, of course, the body has its own mechanism. Body is a complex. Some cells are regenerated and so on. But in a high level,
Mm-hmm.
most of the growth is, or the cells, they go through the growth phase. They stabilized you between 30 and 40, but after 40, it's pretty much standard or coming down. Is that true?
If that is happening, Shubha, then there is standard. It seems like it is standard because it looks like there's no growth that's happening. Then what's happening to all the food that we eat? Because the food that we eat has to be broken down, and that is forming our body, right? That is how we see new skin. That is why you see, if there is new moles that are forming, if you see any discoloration, if you see any of the changes that are happening, it is because of the new, I mean, of course, the cytoplasm in the cell, there's depletion that is happening. There is a lot of loss of cytoplasm in the cell that can happen, and that's why wrinkling can also happen. But I agree that the organ, it looks like it is almost the same, but cell growth happens throughout our lifetime. It is not possible that the same cells are there all the time and there is no growth at all. That is where neuroplasticity is happening. No, if there is no cell growth, then how can we rewire ourselves? That is not possible, right? So it happens, but it happens at a stage where it feels like all stable because the cell death is happening and the cell growth is happening, and it all seems at the same stage. And then later on, when it comes, there is a lot of cell death or depletion compared to the amount of growth. Does that make sense? Because all the food that you eat, the in the first classes we spoke about how ahara rasa is formed from the food. The Then this is converted into plasma, into blood, into muscles, into fat, bones, bone marrow, reproductive juices. All of these tissues are formed from the food only.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is one concept that I wanted to introduce before I talk about how we should take care of, elderly, or when we're becoming old. We need to know how to take care of ourselves. That's also very, very necessary. Now, the most important thing to remember that Agni in Ayurveda, the strength of Agni depends on the strength of the dhatus. I'll repeat that one more time. The strength of our digestive fire, which is Agni, depends on the strength of our organs, our tissues. If the strength of our tissues is declining because Vata is increasing, because the air element is increasing, the space element is increasing, the decline is happening, then you have to agree that that is the reason the digestive fire is also reducing. We have to feed according to the digestive fire. We have to recognize that reduction, because what happens here is, oh my God, you're becoming weak. I want to make sure that I feed you enough. Will happen. That is something that is the mistake that we could do. So make sure that we're feeding according to the digestive fire that the person has. What does that mean? You have to always look at the symptoms of bloating, indigestion, heaviness, gas passing, constipation, acidity. Any of this is happening, then you know that there is indigestion, and because of this indigestion, you're noticing these symptoms. Is there proper hunger? Is this person experiencing proper hunger? Right after eating food, is this person energetic or are they feeling dull from eating food? So these are all the kind of features you have to look at, and then make sure you feed the food. And you have to make sure, I see this so much with my aunts and uncles also. When they get to 80s and 90s, that's when they're eating lots of nuts, and they're like, I want to eat this protein food, I want to make sure that I eat meat. Until then they were not eating, but now they start. Then they suddenly see inflammatory symptoms where there's burning, there's numbness, there is pain that they experience suddenly, and they don't attribute it to the food that they have added. So that is why it is important to address that first, making sure that they're eating only according to their capacity, eating just like how I always talk about eating small breakfast, proper lunch, making lunch the highest meal, the biggest meal, and then smaller dinner, and making sure that they're eating cooked foods only, warm foods, and recognize that because there is more of air and space element, you have to make sure that you are oleating, lubricating, add good quality fats. Ghee is good, avocado oil is good, coconut oil if they're used to it, sesame oil if they're used to it, olive oil. Make sure that you're oleating the food so that they get that kind of lubrication. Make sure that some amount of juices are flowing in the body. So that is important. Warm, cooked food with lubrication is important. If they have to get good protein, then soups is a good way that you can give them. Yeah, so that's one thing that you have to remember about foods. And you also have to make sure that they're hydrated enough so that they have this amount of they're able to break down the food that they eat. You don't want to give lots of water that they are adding, they're diluting the digestive fire, but make sure that there is enough water that they are drinking. That is important. And now, if food, yes, Preeti.
So Manju, you said soups for protein, like you mean lentil
Meat,
soup?
meat soups or bone soups is okay. If
What if
if
they?
if they're a meat eaters, if they're meat eaters, and if they, instead of eating meat, this is better. But if they're not a meat eater, then lentil soup is beneficial. Yeah.
And that can be had for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, is it?
Preferably dinner than breakfast and lunch. Dinner, because you want to have a lighter meal, but you want to have something that is sustainable. So, preferably for dinner, you are going to eat some protein along with some ghee or some amount of oleation. That is better. But if they want to eat for breakfast and lunch also, that's okay. For breakfast and lunch, I would prefer it, like a crepe or a bread, or that way it is easier for them to digest. If you're coming from a southern part of India, ade is something that they can do. Or if you're coming from a northern part of India, chila is something that you can do. Or for Doug, and you can do pancakes of, like lentil kind of powder. You can make pancakes out of it. That is something that you can do, which is easier for you to digest.
The dosa is also in that variety.
Dosa is there, but then make sure that there the urad dal is a little bit heavier. And for South Indians, they're used to fermentation and they're used to digesting it. But otherwise, you have to be very careful that you're able to digest the urad dal, the black gram. Otherwise, the mung dal is better, and that's why ade is going to be a little bit easier to digest, or even, mung crepe, mung dosa, pesarattu. That's going to be easier to digest as well.
A quick question, Manju. So, my father-in-law has like a uric acid problem, so he cannot eat a lot of protein.
Yeah.
So he cannot eat ghee or dals. And so, what would we do in that case? Like, if
Then don't eat protein at all. I'm sorry, I cannot see who is this that's asking a question.
hey,
But
Miss Ashwati.
oh, Shashwati, hi. So definitely no protein because the uric acid is high. You want to, ghee is okay though. Ghee should not be a problem if uric acid is high because it's more of inflammation.
Okay.
Protein is there and inflammation is there. You want to stay away from inflammatory foods like tomatoes and nightshades and everything for uric acid. And you want to make sure that you're reducing your protein intake also. If they're a meat eater, soups are okay. But if they're not a meat eater, it's okay to stay away from protein, but adding good quality ghee and good quality fats is okay.
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Then, once we understand food, I know we spoke about food specifically in the past, so I'm assuming that you know the general understanding of the food. Then we'll talk about their lifestyle, right? The most important thing. You have to make sure that they are mobile. They are doing their activities. As much as they are able to do their activity, as much mobility is there, that much flowing of the juices is happening. Again, I'm going to say this again and again and again. The mantra is to increase the amount of juices and flowing of the juices. That's the mantra that we are looking at. Once we know what the final goal is, then we'll find many, many different ways to achieve that. But for us, it's important that we have it ingrained in us what is the goal. So, to prevent stagnation and for the juices to flow, movement is very, very important. If they're overweight, if they're obese, then water exercises are extremely important. I'm surprised that there is, There is hydrotherapy that they're making a business out of it also. This is actually given. I just found out some of the Western doctors are prescribing it, and just like how gyms are available now how hydrotherapy is also available, where you do all kind of water exercises. Because here, there's not a lot of pressure that you put in your joints, and you'll be able to mobilize your joints very, very much. So, very important to mobilize your joints. However, I mean, if they're able to do regular yoga, regular walking, then encourage them to do that. If they're not able to, if there's lots of pains in their joints and not able to move so much, and for that reason they're not mobile, then you choose hydrotherapy. That is another thing. And exercise with oxygen therapy, EWOT, is something that you want to introduce for your elderly relatives. What does this mean? While you're doing your exercise, you want to get oxygen to the areas that you want improvement. For example, if you're biking, get a stationary bike, because you want to make sure that there is, you don't want them to fall, trip, all of that. And that's why get a stationary bike, allow them to bike. So when they are biking, while they're biking, have them use an iPad and do some brain related activity. BrainHQ.com is something that you can always ask them to subscribe to. It's a free kind of a website which gives you different puzzles, different riddles, and different ways of challenging your brain. So while you're exercising, because there is a lot of oxygen that is being produced, you want to make sure that it is channeled to the proper area, and you're allowing for your brain cells to be active also at the same time. And that is why you're going to be, generally also you can do Brain HQ and all of that activities. But if you do this, then it is going to be doubly effective. And you can start doing this while in your 40s, 50s, and 60s also. You don't have to wait until 70 to do this. But if you have not started, if anybody has not started, this is something that's very, very effective. While biking, you can choose to do anything. It's not necessary you do Brain HQ only. You can do a Sudoku puzzle. You can do any puzzles that you're interested in and do that activity. Because the white matter, the kapha that is flowing all over your brain and allowing your brain to function, slowly depletes, slowly reduces. And you want to make sure that that is regenerated. And this is one of the ways that you're able to regenerate it. So EWOT, exercise with oxygen therapy, is something that I would like to specify. Then in the lifestyle, you want to make sure that your loved ones are sleeping on time. N3 sleep, when you're able to get as much amount of deep rested sleep they're able to get, then they're able to activate something called a glymphatic system. This glymphatic system is able to remove all the waste and drainage that is present in the brain. When you're able to remove all of this easily, then you're reducing inflammation to a great extent. If that inflammation is reduced to a great extent, then all the neurological conditions, neurological diseases are going to be reduced as well. So getting that N3 sleep is important. How are you going to get that? Because Vata stage of the life, remember, Vata is air and space element, always restless. They're always thinking about all the things that will happen. The prefrontal cortex, the amygdala, is always in that, flight or fight mode, thinking about, oh, they did this, she did this, I did this. All that replay happens, especially as we're aging. So calming yourself down using the blue light, to block that light that, you want to make sure that your melatonin is produced naturally. And you're doing all the things possible for your melatonin to be produced naturally. Before the light was invented, well, naturally it was always, it is always very, very dark by the time, I mean, now it's not dark until 9 p.m. for us, but generally it gets darker. And that's when our eyes send messages to our brain, and brain knows that this is happening, and melatonin is produced in that way. But if you're not slowing down, even though it is late in the night, then there's a confusion that's created and melatonin is not produced. So do the activity, simulate the activity. Shut the blinds down, turn off the lights, put a blue light, blue light blocking things that you can put on. That way you're not getting this unnatural light. And applying oil to the soles of your feet, because that is going to reduce the vata. So apply oil to the soles of your feet. Play calming music if that's something that calms you down. Water sounds are extremely beneficial. And applying a little bit of aromatic oil, that smell is also going to calm you down. Doing all of this activity will allow for natural production of melatonin. What type of oil? Sesame oil is always the best. If not, if you are able to use some medicated oils, Mahanarayana Tailam is also good. So that is something that you're going to do to create that sleep. Because once you do that, the sleep is there, then you've done all the things possible. It's going to allow for all of your neurotransmitters to function the way they're supposed to, all the hormones to function the way they're supposed to. The glymphatic system is activated, so the gunk that is supposed to go out is going to go out. So this itself, and if none of this is working, then do not hesitate for some days to take low dose melatonin. Typically I don't say this. I mean, of course, you're going to try all the Ayurvedic herbs if necessary. Do the Brahmi, do Ashwagandha. These are all the calming herbs. And, take some warm milk in the night. All of those things that we spoke about. If none of this works at all, do not hesitate to give a low dose melatonin so that they get this much needed sleep to be able to function next morning. Okay, Preeti.
So one thing that my mom has challenged, that even if she sleeps by 9 or 9:30, she wakes up at like 4 a.m.
Hmm.
Right, and doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And
And 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is the Vata Kala. And that's why that activity is happening. That's why even though she goes to bed at 9, and even though she does not have any of these problems, I mean, falling asleep doesn't seem to be a problem for her from what you're saying. Even though that's happening, allow her to do all of these. And when she does all of these, it will eventually allow for that vata to reduce, because what's happening is at 4 a.m. her vata is so much activated that she's waking up at that time and not knowing what to do. When she wakes up at that time, allow her to put some either water sounds or any of the chants, or allow her to get back to her breath, or make sure that the room is cool enough. Make sure that the blinds are all completely closed and there is no light that is coming. And tell her, do not wake up, even though you wake up at that time. And this essential oil aromatherapy is also going to be beneficial. She can apply jasmine oil or lavender essential oil. These are all very beneficial, calming and grounding things. And oiling her feet before going to bed. And these are all the things that she can still do, even though she does not have a problem falling asleep. This will allow for her vata to go down and allow for her to rest well. Ask her to
I
try.
think she's taking some ashwagandha and herbs, so that's why I think she's falling asleep
Mm,
on time. But
okay.
yeah, this waking up is happening. So I'll suggest these to her.
Yes. Suggest those things. And oiling the feet, you will see that magic happens with that. Ask her to do that.
Where do you apply? Oh, sorry. Where do you apply the essential oil? And then the
Oh,
other question is the low dosage, is that about 3 mg melatonin?
you can start with 1 mg actually.
One. Okay.
Yeah. And temples of this area, this is the Shankhamarma, is what we call. You can also put it on the wrist. These are the two areas, and Hridaya area also. These are the three areas that you can apply the essential oils.
Temple, wrist, or what?
A heart area, chest.
And what is this blue light blocking?
There is this specific kind of glasses that you can buy, which simulates is this glasses, if you put it on, it will simulate as if it is regular light only, and it's not the artificial light that's going into your eye. Our lights that we turn on, those lights are stopping us from creating proper melatonin because they say that, okay, it's proper light only. These Blu-ray blocking glasses are available where I can send you a link actually. I'll see if I can find a link and I can send it to you. And this will allow for us to allow for our body to simulate in such a way that this is natural lighting, like the evening light that's there, that's dimmer. That's how it feels like when you put this glasses on.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is the main lifestyle that I wanted to talk about for adults. Another very important thing is staying with the community. At this stage, when they're 70, 80 especially, they feel like you can vouch for this, that they repeat their stories again and again. And none of us have time to listen to that stories. It's important that they are emotionally connected with someone. They have to be connected with the community. So we have to make an effort for them to be able to go out, for them to be able to get connected with the community and be able to express whatever is happening in their mind, be able to say it out, be able to connect with others. That's very, very important. I say this when I was working as a pharmacist. I would go to all the nursing homes. I was working in a long-term care facility, and I would go to all the nursing homes. I would see all of these patients. They're all well established, well lived people. They were doctors, nurses at one point of time. And I would see at their eyes, I mean, seeing a new person itself would bring light into them. They would smile, and they would be like, they would either want to touch my hair or touch like a new person coming there, right? So this is very, very important because that will activate their neurotransmitters. That will allow for them to function better. So connecting with the community is also another very important thing that we should allow them to. And we should find a way where they're able to do this. Yeah. And as I always say, Ayurveda talks about putting oil everywhere. So, especially because they are in the Vata stage of their life, especially because the juices have been depleted, we want to make sure that they are oiling their entire body. At least all of their joints, the big joints and the small joints, are all oleated very, very well. Making sure that they're oil pulling, making sure that they're doing their nasya, nasahi shiraso dwaram, because nose is the doorway to your brain. And when Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and all the neurological conditions are something that we're worried about, putting 1 to 2 drops of nasal oil into your nostrils is the most important thing that you can teach your loved ones, your elderly cared ones. I actually did a video of that just today in my Instagram. You can take a look at it if you have not. But that is something that, and you can actually do just ghee. Just regular ghee is something that they can put into each of their nostrils, or even anutelam. 1 drop, 1 to 2 drops is enough, so that they are making sure that their nervous system is all hydrated. Yeah. So that is something, and putting drops karnapurna, 1 drop into each of the ears is also something that will be beneficial, making sure that there is no infection in the ears and no water that is present in the ears. Then you can always put 1 drop of oil into each of the ear so that the hearing capacity can get better. Yeah. So oiling is also very, very important that you would want to teach them how to do. But make sure that you're very careful also. You don't want them to trip and fall. So it is very important that you teach them the right way and teach them the safer way also. And when it comes to the safer herbs that you want to use, and typically I don't say this, but I'm giving you some safe herbs also that you can use. Yes, Preeti?
So the oil, besides like Abhyanga, self-Abhyanga, or getting Abhyanga, so the ear and the nose oil, is that to be done at the same time, or is there a certain time of day
It's
that?
to be done on the same time. Nose, you want to make sure that you're always, I mean, of course, even Abhyanga, you do it on an empty stomach, but nose also on an empty stomach. And you cannot be eating right after you do your nasya, and you cannot be showering. These are the two things that people generally do. You cannot be eating or showering right after nasya, and you cannot be doing nasya if there is any congestion that you're experiencing. Otherwise, you do it along with your Abhyanga only is okay. Or if you're not doing your Abhyanga, you can still, wake up in the morning. The first thing you do is you grab your Nasya bottle, and then you put your oil into your nostrils. And you can use sesame oil, or for your nostrils, you can use ghee or anutelam. Any of that is okay.
And ear also, is there any restriction, or it can be done?
So ear, also make sure that there is no water retention or anything that is present in the ear. Otherwise, it is absolutely okay, because ears are the seat of Vata also. Ears and skin, both of them are the seat of Vata. And that's why you want to make sure that just 1 drop, you can just take pinky in the sesame oil that they use, and they can just put it also. That's good enough as well. Okay. So that is something. Yes, Jay Sheila?
Can this be done in the night before going to sleep?
Which one?
The Nasya?
Nasya, I would not prefer doing it before going to bed. That's not recommended actually. You would do it either in the morning or in the evening is okay, like 2 hours before your dinner. That is okay, but I would not prefer before going to bed. Karnapurna is okay. You can do just 1 drop, you're putting it in your ears. That is okay before bed, but not Nasya.
Nasya.
Because what happens is when you do Nasya, there is this excessive kapha that is present in this region, and you have to spit it out. In the night time, all the channels are blocked, and you are not going to get that excessive mucus also to spit out. So it is not recommended to do it in the night. In the morning and evening are okay. Morning, mid-morning, and evening.
After you do it, then is it the kapha comes out and they're required to spit it out, or?
Most of the times, yes. But if you do it with ghee, so again, if there is a lot of degeneration and depletion, ghee is beneficial. Just 1 drop into each nostril. Then you're not going to get any kapha out when you do this. But if you're doing it with anutelam, if there is any migraines or if there is any congestion that they're being bothered with, then you use anutelam, or you use any of these other oils. Then some kapha might come out, and you'll have to spit it out.
And they can do their yoga exercises after doing full body Abhyanga and this Nasya. They can do yoga.
Absolutely, yes.
And then have shower.
Correct.
It's okay. Okay.
Correct. But make sure if they're doing that, then they have to support themselves. If they're full of oil and if they're doing yoga and
Yes, yes.
any of this, you have to make sure that they're safe.
Mm.
Yeah. And so Trini, what I use is the sesame oil Kevala brand is something that I use. Oh, for India, I don't know. I'm sorry. I mean, AVP and Kottakkal, these are all good brands, but unfortunately, I don't know which other ones that that you can use in India for sesame oil specifically. Here I can,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. Yeah, Shalini, definitely do kapha. Do nasya to remove your kapha.
Could you repeat it? I missed some of it due to my yoga class, just the kapha part.
What is it that you want me to repeat, Shalini?
The kapha part, like how I get a lot of cough.
Hmm.
So I
Hmm.
did use Anutelam
Hmm.
for clearing the nostrils,
Hmm.
but and I still have it. So I steam a lot.
Yeah. So you can do that. You steam and then you do the nasya later. But then again, nasya is only necessary to remove the excessive kapha that is being produced. It cannot be used for removing kapha. Then internally there is a lot of kapha that's being produced. You have to make sure that you check the diet that you're eating, and you have to remove that excessive kapha with the herbs also internally.
Oh. So I don't know how to do that. No?
That you require a consultation because you want to make sure that you have individualized
Yeah.
understanding of what's happening.
Yeah. And then you mentioned about ghee. What does that do?
Ghee is for this session, Shalini. I don't know if you attended from the beginning, but this is mainly for caring of the aging and elderly relatives and patients and care and parents of ours.
Sorry, I wasn't able to. Yeah.
That's okay. So when we reach 70, 80, 90, then there is a lot of depletion, degeneration that's happening in the nervous system. So the ghee is going to help repletion, and that is going to be beneficial, just putting one drop so that arrests the amount of depletion that is happening in the nervous system.
In the nose.
Correct.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Priyanka, I would wait at least for 30 minutes before you take a shower after nasya. Sesame oil brand is Kevala. So I was going to the herbs that I would like to recommend. The herbs that I would recommend are definitely Brahmi because it is calming down, and you can take that in the night. Ashwagandha is something that is also rejuvenating, but make sure that you're not taking excessive of it because you want to take into consideration the amount of digestive fire that they have as well. So, if ashwagandha, if you're taking it as a powder, you can take half a teaspoon of that at night, or even Brahmi, you can take it half a teaspoon of that in the night. Another thing that you can do is Shankhapushpi tea, blue pea flower tea is something that you can take that is going to calm you down and that's going to allow for the proper sleep. And another important herb that you can recommend is called Rasayana Churna. This one is a combination of Guduchi, Amalaki, and Gokshur. This is called Rasayana Churna. Yes, Brahmi, Ashwagandha, and Shankapushpi are for sleep. The new churna that I just mentioned, Guduchi, Amalaki, Gokshur, is for strengthening of the tissues in general. Right now, we spoke about how degeneration can happen in the tissues in general, especially in the bones region, Asthi Dhatu. This is going to be allowing for regeneration. This is going to be allowing for strengthening of the tissues. Guduchi, Amalaki, and Gokshur. You can take half a teaspoon in the morning with half teaspoon of melted ghee. And this is called as a rasayana, which is a rejuvenative that you can give in general so that all the functions are going to be, proper for them. So that is something, and encourage them to learn something new. When they're learning something new, you are going to create that neuroplasticity. You're going to improve that capacity of them. So encourage them to learn either a new language, art form, or something new, so that they're engaged always and they're not thinking about passing time. If not, depression is something that they fight very, very much with. It is important that we address it and we're able to spend some quality time. It's not possible for us especially with all the busy schedule that we have, it's not possible for us to spend entire day. But few minutes a day is good enough to explain to them, oh, this is what happened during my day. How was your day like? You can call them and you can talk to them. And then you can encourage them. You can tell them about your life, what has happened, and then encourage them to learn something new. That also allows them to stay put and stay with the community. So they'll feel good about it also. And another important thing that I also wanted to talk is forest bathing. It's a new term, right? So just going out and going with nature itself helps them very, very much. Living in the concrete jungle is not going to be allowing their brains to function the way they want to. But just going out into, you don't have to go to a forest, but just going out in nature, in green, that oxygen itself is going to allow them to breathe well, allow them to function well. And of course, introducing them to breath work and meditation, mind and meditation, is also very, very important so that they're able to process all of those things that they have been living with for all their life. So you can do it along with them, or you can teach them, you can encourage them to start with breath work and meditation if they have not already. So these are all the things that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to tell you what the principles are, what is actually happening during this age, what are the kinds of foods they need to eat, what is the lifestyle they need to lead, and what are the herbs that would be beneficial for them. Again, it is so heartwarming when I see Ayurveda. I've had a 75-year-old that come into the clinic 2 months ago, not even 2 months, 6 weeks ago. She couldn't even sleep. She couldn't even sit down during the consultation. She was standing up because she was that restless. And we just did very, very basic change of diet and added 1 or 2 herbs only, not more than that. And we did proper Shirodhara. I was shocked myself that she was jumping with joy and she was happily talking, and even her daughter came for an appointment and she said, you sit for however long, and she was in the clinic for 3 hours without any restlessness, while the first time I met with her, she couldn't sit down for even 5 minutes. So the power of grounding them is what was, it was powerful for me to even witness what happened with just grounding itself. And it is all very, very basic. It was not, doing a lot of things, but that itself is very, very powerful. Gave me a reminder that you don't have to do a lot of things, but just basic grounding techniques is going to be doing a world of difference. And even with a lot of clients who deal with the after effects from a stroke, paralytic effect, not able to walk, wheelchair ridden, all of them have seen a lot of difference with just oleation, Shirodhara, basic herbs, and diet. So please take care of your loved ones, give them all of this information, and allow them to make right choices so that it is easy and happy for them to live longer, and you will be able to spend quality time with them as well. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer the questions. If not, we can end for today also.
I have a question. In the beginning, you mentioned about the making yogurt from milk. You gave that example of the process. I'm just wondering, like, how do we recognize beginning of that fermentation process? What is like kind of that seed? What are those like kind of red flags or signs that we should look out for?
Absolutely. Good question. You would be looking at definitely the change of the behavior, mind behavior also. They would get restless or agitated with small things. The anger, irritation, restlessness, irritability, all of this will happen with small things also. You would be like, oh, what happened? It was not like this in the past. Those are all some things that you would look at mentally. And then physically, you will either witness constipation or there is diarrhea or there's loose stools that are happening. They're not able to have proper stools. That can happen. Or digestion wise, you will see some difference that they're not able to eat as much that they were used to, or they are not able to digest, and you will be able to manifest it in the form of bloating or heaviness or any of that. And you will notice that they are not retaining things in the sense they're forgetting things. You're having to remind them, oh, I told you this, where'd you put this? I forgot where I left my keys. I forgot that I was supposed to do this. So that is also another very big sign that you must look at. And look at the changes of the skin color. The complexion, if it is turning dark, then that also is an indication that Vata is kicking in very fast. Look at the indication of them not being able to tolerate proper temperature. If they're saying that, oh my God, I'm not able to, it's suddenly feeling very cold. When all of us are feeling normal, they feel much more colder than normal. So that is also another sign that they are not able to, their body does not have enough juices, and that's why it's not able to withstand temperature. Yeah. And physically also, they will be exhausted sooner than what they were. Again, the indication is not with someone else their same age, but the indication is what were they last year and what are they right now. They are their own measure. You're not measuring them with someone else, right? So these are all the subtle changes, and they're not able to sleep well. Even though they sleep, they don't feel like they're rested well. So these are all the signs that you would want to look at. And when you see these first signs, then you know, oh, the Vata has kicked in. I want to make sure that I want to give them proper food. I want to make sure that I'm oleating them. I want to make sure that they are connected with someone. I want to make sure that I introduce EVOT. I introduce hydrotherapy. I'm introducing them to a new thing. All of these techniques you can start. I mean, you don't want to overwhelm and bombard them with all of these at once. You cannot tell them, I learned all of this in the class and I want you to start all of this. They'll say, goodbye, I'm not doing any of this. Whichever one you feel they will be more open to is something that you start with. And then you gain their confidence that they are actually feeling better. And then you introduce the second one. Then you introduce the third one. That's how you start.
Thank you. I have one other question. Sometimes we hear that there's kind of biological clock or biological age, sometimes different than the physical age. Just wondering how that kind of relates to everything that you've explained, the Vata and reducing air and yeah.
Absolutely. And that's why we're talking about, we are allowing the biological age to age at a slower pace. By doing all of these techniques, we are trying to allow for that degeneration and decline to happen at the slow pace. It has to happen. The degeneration and decline has to happen. That is that is the nature of the life. That is the science of life. It has to happen. But it will happen at a much slower pace if you include all of these, even though the physical, and that's what you see with a lot of people. My grandfather was able to, he didn't even have to cut, the coconut from the shell itself. He would bite it with his own teeth into his 90s also. That's how strong his teeth were, because he never even knew what a toothpaste was. So that the habits that they inculcate are going to be seen in the age that we see. So if we are able to introduce these habits to them, then we will be able to increase their biological age, extend their biological age.
Yes, that makes sense. Thank you. I think the way I'm understanding is, as you explained, Vata is what is causing aging, and doing all the oiling and moving, increasing the juices, we are reducing Vata and kind of balancing. I think that makes
Absolutely.
sense. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great topic. Great topic. I've got questions, but I know pretty soon you'll come back with like a session too.
I know, that's why give me more topics and we can talk about, we can talk about it next time, not a problem.
Yeah.
Kerrygold Irish unsalted butter is absolutely okay, Jay Sheila. You could use, there is something called, it's available in Trader Joe's. For me, I use raw milk, and that's where I get the butter from. But I am blanking out on the name, but it's available in Trader Joe's, and that's called cultured butter. But Kerrygold is absolutely good.
Oh, and do you make butter from raw milk and then make ghee?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So from raw milk, what I do is I boil it, and the cream that comes out of that raw milk is what we culture and make yogurt out of it. And we churn that. And once we churn it, the butter that comes out of that is what we use to make ghee. But that's a very tedious process. However, yeah.
Amazing patience. Yes.
Oh, I have mom at home. I cannot take credit for that. She does the process. Yeah.
I have a question
Yes.
about keeping lubricated in
Mhm.
terms of oil, and also a question about salt.
Yeah.
Salt is a real subtle one. Does that impact the lubrication, like salt in one's diet? Will that impact? So like, for example, if you're waking up with like a dry mouth or something like that, or with the tongue, if you have like on the sides of the tongue, there can be like teeth marks, that kind of
Mhm.
ridges.
Mhm.
That's my first question. And then it just amazes me that putting oil on the skin will impact the joints.
Oh, absolutely. Try it yourself and you'll see the difference yourself.
And will it impact the face? Like if you feel like a lot of dryness in the face?
Oh, absolutely it does, because your skin is the biggest mouth. It's going to drink your oil, and it's
Really?
going to be allowing for your cartilage to improve. Definitely. Now, going back to your question about salt, salt is something that lubricates, there's no doubt. What does it do? When you're adding salt to the foods, you notice that there's water that comes out. And when you add salt, when there's lots of ice and snow, salt is what's used to remove that snow and everything. However, it only lubricates that collected mucus. If there is congestion, it breaks opens that congestion and lubricates that. But if you use it in excess, it will dry out as well. So it's important that you use salt only as needed. You cannot use salt if there is a dry mouth, because there's already dryness that's there in the body. You don't want to add salt to create even more dryness. If there is a lot of congestion, then salt is just used to break that congestion. That's all. That's what we use salt for. We use salt in some of the herbs also, but only to a certain extent. If we overuse it, you will definitely see dryness.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. It's amazing about the oil. In like with Shirodara, is that being absorbed when you do the Shirodara?
Uh-huh. And it activates the parasympathetic nervous system.
It
because
does.
you're doing it on the third eye. There's so many what we call marmas, which are hidden points in that, which awakens because of that. And it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And that is how you're going to be grounded.
Wow. Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Thank you all for joining. And Shubha, definitely, if you have a topic, do not hesitate to, suggest, and we can take it next time.
Thank you, Manju.
Absolutely. Thank you all for joining. And I hope it was useful, beneficial. I hope that you'll be able to implement this within our own lives and within our loved ones' lives. And I'll see you all next time.
Thank you so much, Anju. Thanks.
Absolutely. No problem. You all take care. Bye.